Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. I'm here from outside Castle Grayskull. Kevin Smith just keeps talking, and the more he talks, the more his lies are obvious, and it's becoming really embarrassing at this point. He had an exchange with a guy called Miguel A. Garcia, and he said, "Why did you decide to change the suit from the show to the one with the one from the toy lines if it was a continuation of the show?" And Kevin Smith just blurts out, "The show's producers is Mattel, so everything we do in Revelation is more toy-based. The old show is owned by another studio." Hello? Which is why I've always said, when did you say this? That our Masters official series is a spiritual sequel to the old show. Legally, we can't be an actual sequel to Filmation. So there you go. This is not a sequel to the original show. It is not a continuation. They can't do it because they don't have the rights. They can't do it. They cannot continue the stories, the storylines. They can't use the character designs, all these things. They can't do it. Now, my theory is that what they did was they basically licensed the original character designs and that for the first 10 minutes of the first episode. And then they designed this catastrophe to change everything, and then they moved forward in time, and that way everyone can change, their looks can change, their character designs can change, their attitudes, their stories, all that can change, and then they can make their own series within these sort of bookended sort of elements, because it looks like the series starts and ends with He-Man, but the whole series itself is a reboot in another reality, basically, where Eternia has basically fallen, and it's just a miserable wasteland, Mad Max disaster sort of world. Which who wants to watch? Who wants to be in that? So looks like the truth finally comes out now. I have a bit of a theory about this because a couple of years ago when this first came out, PowerCon had the synopsis up, and that was on screen, and that was went on online, and people like Clownfish Media called it out, and I did a video about it like 2 years ago, and they did a tweet, and Kevin Smith sort of attacked them. They quoted Screen Rant, who mentioned it, because Screen Rant mentioned that although it claims to not be a reboot and a sequel, one major difference is, although He-Man will certainly be around, he won't be the main protagonist anymore. Instead, the series will focus on Teela. They quoted that, and Kevin Smith said, with all due respect at Screen Rant, this is in relation to Clownfish TV's quote of him, "I've read every Masters official script of our show, plus wrote a few, and viewed 4 amazing animatics. While Teela is as present as she's always been in the Master Universe adventures, and she plays a big role, our series is literally all about He-Man." Well, that's just a play on words, because yes, it's all about He-Man, it's all about getting the Power Sword and the power back to He-Man, but it's her journey to do it, and he's not there. So, okay, technically you didn't lie, but you played with words, and it's the same thing. He said he's been saying he's a He-Man fan when he's been found out saying, "I wasn't a big He-Man fan." No, I wasn't a He-Man fan at all. In the past, he's been quoted, people have found tweets, and he was born in 1970, so he would have been like 13 or 14 when the show started. He wouldn't have been watching it as a kid. He wouldn't have been playing with the toys, so he wasn't a fan. He didn't grow up with it. He has come to it later. Now, I have a bit of a theory, because no one could be this stupid. He keeps outing himself. He keeps making it obvious that he's lied about stuff, that things are not what they're supposed to be. This is not a sequel. It's not a continuation. That He-Man isn't involved. It's all about Teela and her girlfriend, and everything is different. Everything looks different. The whole world is different. And he said at 10 minutes that everything changes. I think when he signed on to the show and started bragging about that he was going to do it, he thought he was actually going to be making a continuation of the series. He actually thought that they had the rights. And then what he found out when he got in the studio was, we are doing it from Mattel's rights. We actually don't have the Filmation rights, so we can't continue any of those stories or any of those characters that look like that or anything that was unique or original to that series. Otherwise, we have to license it individually and pay for it. And this is his passive-aggressive way of outing the studios out for putting him in this situation. That's what I think is happening. I think he keeps saying these obvious statements that show that he's lied in the past about all these sort of scenarios. And I think this is his passive-aggressive way of doing this, because I don't think he really wanted to be in this situation where he's sort of getting all this hate from people and not doing what he said he was going to do. So I think that's what's happening. But It is just depressing because this is happening a lot. It happened with Star Trek, it happened with Transformers, it's happened with other series where basically some studio, some investor person comes in and buys the limited rights to a show or a franchise or something that people love, like Star Trek, He-Man, Transformers, Thundercats, whatever. And then instead of continuing the actual show and the actual characters and everything, they basically make up their own version of the show, which then they can license all the character designs and the new products or the new characters or the new ships or vehicles or whatever, and then they basically can merchandise those things and make a lot of money out of them. If they use the originals, they'd have to pay the original people to license them, and then they have to pay them a percentage of the money. So it's not the best financial method, basically, to license all the original stuff and actually continue original shows and old shows. It's a lot more financially viable or financially beneficial to just take the name, create your own show, create your own series, comic, whatever, and then license that for yourself and merchandise that for yourself. That's what keeps happening. They did it with Transformers. It was supposed to be G1 originally, then they just changed it and they just brought in other car designs and other colours and everything, and that's why nothing looks like it's supposed to, nothing sounds like it's supposed to. Same thing with Star Trek. They sold it to Netflix, and Netflix wanted a continuation of the original series, original canon universe, and they were sold. They had paid hundreds of millions of dollars for what they thought was going to be a continuation of the original show. It was going to be set 10 years before. It was going to be in that same universe. What they got was this other alternate universe version of that, which doesn't fit in at all. They can't use the same uniforms, they can't use the same ship, they can't use the same characters. They can use them in name, but they can't be anything like them. And fans weren't happy, Netflix wasn't happy, no one was happy, and they're doing the same thing with He-Man. They've done it with Transformers. It's just like the Hollywood method, or the Hollywood lost the term, but it's like it's the process that they do now. Like they just take an old franchise, buy it in name, recreate it, then try and sell it back to the same people who have been asking for it for years, and it doesn't really work because most of the people who want the original as it was aren't happy, and the fans that are, they're not, the numbers that you got with the original. So none of these ones are ever as successful as the original. They don't work as well, and no one's ever really happy because the new fans who come in, they never really liked the original. That's why they like the new shows, because they're different. So they don't follow the old ones, and they don't go back and watch the old ones because they don't get introduced to it or anything, because it's just not what they like. It's just a mess. It doesn't work for anyone, and I think Kevin Smith is in the middle of this, and he actually didn't want to be there. That's what I think. That's why I think he keeps making these obvious statements and showing that he was lying before, because maybe he wasn't lying, maybe he was just sold the show like he sold it to us, and then found out that's not what he was producing. That's what I think's happened. But either way, fans have a right to be upset. They was literally, on Netflix, it literally says on the synopsis, on when you look at the Netflix page, and Mr. H pointed this out, I have to give him some credit for doing this because I haven't looked at it. It literally says that the new show, Revelation, is a sequel to the original 80s cartoon, and it's not. So they might want to think about changing that, because they might get sued, because it's just not. And people are paying, and you know how litigious and crazy America is, people are actually paying subscriptions, or will be soon, to watch this sequel to the original He-Man cartoon, and that's not what they're going to get. So I don't know. I'm just disappointed, but I'm realizing that this is just how it is now. I don't think any of the shows that I loved, any of the shows that we all follow and are fans of, are ever going to get real continuations or real sequels, because in order to do it, they have to pay the original creators, and it's not a good model. That was the word I was looking for before, for these other studios and that to use, because they don't get the maximum profit from it, because they have to pay people, and then they have to pay percentages back to those people, and they only get a percentage of the marketing and merchandising rights and all this sort of stuff. And that's all it's about. It's just creating this product to sell based on brand recognition and make money out of merchandising. That's all it is to Hollywood. They don't care about it like we do. They don't think about it like we do. And although some of the creators do, they have to work within that frame because they want to get paid. And the other stuff, the woke stuff people are talking about with Tila and all that, that would have happened anyway because of the time, it's just the current climate. So I don't think that would have made any difference. I don't think the licensing has had any effect on that. And I'm air quoting woke because I'm not saying it is woke, but other people are. So, and there are some issues with it, but, you know, I'm going to go. I'm not going to talk more than 10 minutes. I was trying to keep this video to 5 minutes. I thought I could do it, but I failed. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Yeah, I think this is just the way of Hollywood from now on. We're not ever going to get any of our shows back. It's not going to happen. It's all going to be like this. Bye.